Spiritualized started in 1990 and are still going. They're generally considered to be space rock / neo-psychedelia / shoegaze. They're English. They're led by a guy called Jason Pierce, who also goes by the name Spaceman J. He used to be in the band Spaceman 3. There's been quite a bit of turnover of other members, so he is the kind of the linchpin and the one constant member. And at the point where I'm recording this, they have released 9 studio albums. Hi, my name's Dan. So this album is the 4th album by Spiritualized, and apparently it took 4 years to create, and it used 115 session musicians, including an orchestra and the London Community Gospel Choir. Okay, it's not my first encounter with this album because I reviewed it 2.5 years ago when I used to do reviews on a blog. And at that point in time, I was blown away by it. I've reread that review, but I've also re-listened a couple of times, and it's time to potentially reappraise my position, see how I feel now after a bit of time. So I'd describe it as being, kind of Brit-poppy pop rock, and in the kind of neo-psychedelia area, kind of like a band like Suede or something like that. But it's huge because it's got this orchestra and the choir as well, which gives it a whole lot of backing. It does dip into gospel, but generally it's kind of rock with somewhat of a blues feel to it at times. Which is always, it all tends to go down well with me. There's a particular keenness for retro-sounding keyboards that are quite fuzzed, overdriven, and often the whole thing feels quite saturated, and that's because it's using what's called the wall of sound technique for production, which is basically filling the sound with lots and lots of stuff. Which was a method of doing stuff that makes it sound a little bit like it's compressed, and compression in later years after the wall of sound. Now, let's not go into the history of that. So it's musically expansive, and it's almost as epic as Pink Floyd at times, I would say. It's got the big, grand vision for the album, and I reckon that you've got to be quite careful to do that well if you're going to do it as a band. It's probably easier to pull off the middle ground, kind of quite full sound, but going for this epic, you've got to be really sure of what you're doing, I reckon. Otherwise, it just comes off as a bit as overblown or lame. The singing is, I would say, quite Brit-poppy in its tone. There's some harmony backing, which is often quite subtle in the mix. Again, just filling stuff in there, which it kind of reminded me of the Britpop stuff. I felt like, but I couldn't put my finger on exactly what. So where it really impresses those lyrically, so I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this. So first of all, I want to say that this has all come from my listening, and it's not from my reading about the album. So I've not read anything that says that this is the intent with the album. It's possible that I'm reading too much into what's here, but I don't think so. So I would claim that it's a concept album about a life that goes off the rails, and it has 2 parallel themes in it. So one theme is about an indulgent, hedonistic lifestyle, which starts quite exuberant and gets into substance abuse, and then pales in its allure and starts to become quite bitter towards the end of that. And then the other theme is about spirituality, and particularly about a search for God, where at the start of the album, the protagonist, whoever that is certainly quite rejecting of God, but by the end is definitely searching for God. As I say, I might be reading too much into it, but it feels quite honest. I don't know if the whole thing is meant to be the story of a character or is autobiographical. My current suspicion is that it's meant to be a character, and it's meant to be a story about somebody. It certainly means that I think the album comes across best if it's listened to as a whole and in order. And I found the last track, which is Lord Can You Hear Me, particularly poignant. And I think it was that track in particular that really wowed me last time. So as I said, I was really blown away. Last time I gave it a score of 9 out of 10. And this time I'm going to give it a bit less. I've mellowed a bit in my feelings towards it, but I still do really like it. I think it's a great example of creating something that's not just about the music, but has some themes and some thoughtfulness to it. And I often feel like music is wasted because you've got a forum here to say something and you're just talking about buttons or something. Anyway, here we are. I really like it. I'd love to know what you think, so please talk to me through the comments box. That's it from me for now.